Elder Zephia stood before the great crystal window of the High Council chamber, watching the twin suns of Velthera cast rainbow patterns across the peaceful gardens below. Her crystalline skin shifted from its usual calm blue to a worried purple. As she studied the datapad in her hands, the numbers told a story she did not want to believe. "They will be here in 43 days, she said to the other council members gathered behind her. Her voice carried the weight of 300 years of life, but today it trembled like a young child's. Council member Thyros stepped forward, his own skin flickering between orange and red with fear. "Are you certain these readings are correct?" "Elder, the Harvester Collective has not been seen in this sector for over 1,000 years. Zephia turned from the window and placed the datapad on the polished stone table at the center of the room. The other 12 council members leaned forward to look at the holographic display that appeared above it. The display showed their solar system, with hundreds of dark shapes moving toward them from the outer rim of space. "Our deep space sensors do not lie," Zephia said. 317 vessels, each one the size of a small moon. They move in perfect formation, stripping every useful material from the asteroid fields as they pass through. Council member Velara, the youngest of their group, spoke with a voice that shook. "What do they want with us? We have done nothing to provoke them. We have never even left our own system." "They want everything," replied Elder Morok, the oldest member of the council. His skin had gone completely white with age and now showed no color at all. "The Harvester Collective does not make war for territory or revenge. They simply take everything useful from a world and move on. They have done this for millions of years across thousands of star systems." Zephia walked slowly around the table, looking at each council member in turn. "We all know the stories. The great cities of Altara reduced to empty metal shells. The crystal forests of Nexer Prime harvested down to bare rock. The floating cities of the Mindari pulled from their clouds and torn apart for raw materials. Surely someone will help us," said Velara. "The Vrex Empire has powerful fleets. The Nexus Federation has technology beyond our understanding. Someone must be willing to fight the Harvesters." Elder Morok made a sound that might have been laughter, but held no joy. "Child, civilizations far more powerful than ours have faced the Collective. They either run or they die. No one fights the Harvesters. No one wins against them." The room fell silent except for the soft humming of the crystal walls as they resonated with the council members' emotional states. The sound had always been comforting to Zephia, but now it seemed like a funeral song. "We must try," Zephia said finally. "We cannot simply wait here to die. We have 43 days to find help." 3 weeks later, Zephia stood in the same chamber, but now it buzzed with activity. Communication technicians worked at dozens of crystal interfaces, sending the same message across every known frequency in the galaxy. The message was simple and desperate. "To any advanced civilization receiving this transmission, we are the Kaleri of the Velthera system. We are a peaceful people who have never known war. The Harvester Collective approaches our world, and we do not have the means to defend ourselves. We offer everything we have in exchange for protection. Our art, our science, our cultural treasures. Please, if there is any mercy in the galaxy, help us." The responses came slowly. The Vrex Empire sent a brief message expressing sympathy, but explaining that they could not risk their own worlds by engaging the Harvesters. The Nexus Federation offered to accept 50,000 Kolari refugees, but said they could not save the planet itself. A dozen smaller civilizations sent similar messages, all saying the same thing in different words. They were sorry, but they could not help. On the 28th day after the message was first sent, something unexpected happened. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison sat at his monitoring station on Mars, watching the endless stream of data from deep space sensors. He had been doing this job for 3 years, And most days were exactly the same. Ships coming and going from Earth, routine maintenance signals from the outer colonies, and the occasional meteor shower. Today was different. His computer chimed with an incoming signal unlike anything he had ever seen. The transmission was clearly artificial, but it came from outside human space. The automatic translation system struggled with the language, producing rough but understandable text on his screen. Jake read the message 3 times before he believed what he was seeing. Aliens, real aliens, asking for help. He had dreamed of first contact his entire life, but not like this. He forwarded the message to Earth Command immediately, then sat back in his chair and stared at the translation. A peaceful species facing extinction. A request for help. An offer of everything they had in exchange for protection. 6 hours later, General Lisa Carter stood in the command center beneath Colorado Springs, surrounded by her senior staff. The alien message played on the main screen while military analysts debated its implications. "We have to assume this is real," General Carter said. "Our translation systems are primitive, but the message is consistent across multiple frequencies. These Kalari are asking for help." Colonel Steve Murphy, the head of strategic planning, shook his head. "General, we barely have the technology to travel between star systems. We have never fought a space battle. What could we possibly do against this Harvester collective?" Captain Alex Turner stepped forward. He was younger than most of the other officers in the room, but his reputation from the resource wars had earned him respect. "Permission to speak freely, General." "Go ahead, Captain. We spend billions of dollars every year on military technology. We have weapons that can crack mountains and ships that can cross the galaxy. We train every day to fight enemies who want to destroy us. What is the point of all that if we don't use it when innocent people need help?" General Carter looked around the room at her officers. She could see doubt in some faces, determination in others. The debate continued for 2 more hours, with arguments for and against intervention. Finally, the general made her decision. "Contact Admiral Nicole Rodriguez. Tell her to prepare the expeditionary fleet for immediate deployment. We are going to help these Kalari." Colonel Murphy stood up quickly. "General, this could be a disaster. We don't know what we are facing. We could lose every ship." General Carter turned to face him. "Colonel, 40 years ago my grandfather told me something I have never forgotten. He said that the measure of a civilization is not how powerful it becomes, but how it treats those who cannot defend themselves. These Kalari asked for mercy. The galaxy offered them empty words and refugee ships. I think it is time they met some humans instead." The message went out that same day, transmitted toward the Kalari system on the fastest communication beam Earth could generate. It would take 18 days to reach them, but when it did, it would contain words that no other species in the galaxy had ever heard in response to a plea for help against the Harvesters. "To the Kalari people of Velthera, this is Earth Command of the Human Defense Force. We have received your message and we understand your situation. We are not offering you refuge. We are not offering you empty sympathy. We are coming to fight. Hold on. Help is on the way." The first thing Elder Zephia noticed about the human ships was how ugly they were. She stood in the observation tower of Velthera's main spaceport, watching 12 vessels approach through the crystal-clear atmosphere. Unlike the graceful curves and flowing lines of Kalari architecture, the human ships looked like they had been built for war. They were angular and dark, covered in weapon ports and sensor arrays that stuck out at odd angles. "Are you certain these are our rescuers?" asked Council Member Thyros, his skin shifting to a worried yellow-green. "They look more like harvester vessels than the ships of a peaceful species." Zephia did not answer immediately. She had spent the last 15 days wondering what kind of beings would promise to fight the unstoppable Harvester Collective. The approaching ship suggested an answer she was not sure she wanted to hear. The largest vessel, nearly twice the size of the others, settled onto the landing platform with a rumble that shook the crystal walls. Steam hissed from cooling vents along its hull, and Zephyr could see scorch marks and dents that suggested this ship had seen combat before. Section of the ship's side opened with a mechanical whine, and a ramp extended to the platform. The first human to emerge was a woman wearing a dark uniform covered in insignia that meant nothing to the Kalari. She walked with the confident stride of someone accustomed to command, and her eyes moved constantly, taking in every detail of her surroundings. Behind her came 11 other humans, each carrying equipment that looked suspiciously like weapons. They moved in formation, maintaining precise distances from each other and watching for threats that did not exist on the peaceful world of Velthera. Admiral Nicole Rodriguez stepped forward and offered what appeared to be a human greeting gesture, extending her hand toward Elder Zephyr. The Kalari leader hesitantly reached out and touched the human's fingers, noting how rough and scarred they were compared to her own smooth crystal skin. "I am Admiral Rodriguez of the Human Defense Force," the human said. Her words came through, the translation device as precise and formal. "We came as quickly as we could." "I am Elder Zephyr of the High Council," she replied. "We are grateful for your arrival, but I must ask... 12 ships against 300 harvester vessels? How do you plan to achieve victory with such small numbers?" The Admiral's mouth curved in what Zephyr would later learn was called a smile, but it did not look pleasant. "Elder, we did not come here to achieve victory through superior numbers. We came here to win through superior tactics, technology, and determination." Over the next several hours, the humans toured Velthera's major cities and defense installations. What they found horrified them. The Kalari had no military, no weapons, beyond simple tools, and no concept of defensive warfare. Their entire civilization was built around art, philosophy, and peaceful coexistence. Captain Sam Parker, commander of the heavy cruiser Vengeance, stood with Major Kate Williams in the center of Velthera's capital city, watching Kalari citizens go about their daily lives completely unaware that death approached from space. "These people are sitting ducks," Parker said quietly. "They have no idea what is coming for them." Major Williams nodded grimly. She had commanded Marines through the worst fighting of Earth's resource wars, but she had never seen a completely defenseless civilization before. "The harvesters will tear through this place like it was made of paper." "Not if we have anything to say about it," came a voice behind them. They turned to see Captain Alex Turner approaching, carrying a tablet full of tactical data. "I have been studying the harvester attack patterns from previous invasions. They have one major weakness." "What is that?" Parker asked. "They always fight the same way," Turner replied. "For millions of years, they have faced civilizations that use standard galactic military doctrine. Long-range energy exchanges, defensive formations around planets, minimal casualties. The harvesters have optimized their tactics to counter these approaches." Williams raised an eyebrow. "And we do not fight like that." "Exactly. We come from a world where everything tried to kill. U.S. We learned to fight dirty, to take risks, and to never give up even when the odds are impossible. The harvesters have never faced anyone like us." That evening, Admiral Rodriguez met with the Kalari High Council to explain humanity's plan. The council chamber had been modified with human equipment, and holographic displays showed the Velthera system with tactical overlays that made no sense to the peaceful aliens. "We will not defend your world in the traditional manner," the Admiral began. "Standard galactic doctrine would have us form a defensive line around Velthera and engage the harvesters in a direct battle. We would lose." Elder Zephyr's skin shifted to deep purple with worry. "Then what do you propose?" "We are going to spread our forces throughout the system and hit the harvesters in ways they do not expect," Rodriguez continued. "Commander Ben Clark will take his stealth ships and plant nuclear mines along their approach routes. Major Williams will retrofit some of your civilian vessels with our weapons and explosives. Captain Turner will coordinate surprise attacks, using tactics the Harvesters have never encountered. Council member Velara spoke up, her voice trembling. Nuclear weapons? You want to detonate nuclear explosives in our system? Among other things, yes, the Admiral replied calmly. We also plan to use kinetic bombardment, ramming attacks, and close-quarters boarding actions. The Kalari Council members looked at each other in shock. Their skin colors shifted through the entire spectrum of fear and confusion. These concepts were completely foreign to their peaceful existence. Admiral, Elder Zephyr said carefully, we asked for help defending our world. What you describe sounds like you plan to turn our entire system into a battlefield. Rodriguez nodded. That is exactly what we plan to do. Elder, your people sent a message asking for mercy. The galaxy responded with sympathy and offers to take refugees. We responded differently because we understand something the rest of the galaxy has forgotten. What is that? Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be willing to fight for it, the Admiral said. Humans come from what we call a death world. Our planet tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We survived by becoming very good at violence when violence was necessary. Elder Morok, who had remained silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke. Are you saying that all humans are warriors? Captain Turner answered this time. No, Elder. Most humans are peaceful, just like your people. But when someone threatens innocent lives, we become something else. We become the thing that monsters have nightmares about. The next 10 days passed in frantic preparation. Human engineers worked alongside Kalari technicians to modify the peaceful planet's infrastructure. Weapon systems were installed in locations that had previously held art galleries. Communication arrays were converted to military command posts. Underground shelters were expanded and reinforced. The humans worked with an intensity that amazed the Kalari. They slept only a few hours each day and seemed to thrive under pressure that would have paralyzed most other species. They spoke in military terminology that the translation systems struggled to interpret, using words like kill zones, overlapping fields of fire, and acceptable losses. Commander Clark's stealth ships disappeared into the outer system, carrying enough nuclear explosives to level continents. Major Williams supervised the conversion of Kalari transport vessels into floating bombs, while her Marines drilled constantly for boarding actions that the Kalari considered suicide missions. On the 8th day of preparation, Elder Zephyr found Admiral Rodriguez standing alone in the war room, studying tactical displays that showed the approaching Harvester fleet. Admiral, may I ask you something? Zephyr said. Of course, Elder. Why are you doing this? Your people have never met us before. You have no obligation to risk your lives for strangers. Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment before answering. Elder, 40 years ago, my world was almost destroyed by a war over resources. Billions died because people fought over what they wanted instead of protecting what they loved. I swore then that if I ever had the power to prevent that kind of suffering, I would use it. Even if it means your own people might die. The Admiral turned to look at her, and Zephyr saw something in the human's eyes that she had never seen before. It was not anger or fear, but a cold determination that seemed unbreakable. Elder, every human in this fleet volunteered for this mission. They knew they might not come home. They came anyway because that is what humans do when innocent people are threatened. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, no matter the cost. 2 days later, long-range sensors detected the first Harvester scouts entering the outer edge of the Velthera system. The battle would begin soon. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the tactical displays as enemy contacts appeared at the edge of sensor range. Around her, human officers prepared for a fight that would either save a peaceful civilization or see them all die in the attempt. All stations report ready, Admiral, her communications officer announced. Rodriguez opened a channel to all human vessels in the system. This is Admiral Rodriguez to all ships. In a few hours, we are going to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens innocent people in front of humans. The Harvester fleet entered the Velthora system like a black tide of death. Commander, Prime Unit 7 Alpha processed the tactical information from 317 vessels as they moved in perfect formation toward the inner planets. Artificial intelligence had conquered over 4,000 star systems in its existence, and this one appeared no different from the rest. The enemy force consisted of only 12 primitive vessels scattered throughout the system. Analysis of their technology suggested they were several centuries behind standard galactic military capabilities. Victory probability was calculated at 99.97%. The Harvesters moved through space in geometric patterns that had been perfected over millions of years. Each ship was a dark pyramid nearly 2 kilometers on each side, bristling with energy weapons and mining equipment. They advanced at a steady pace, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Behind them, the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets hung silent and empty, just as it had for billions of years. Commander Clark crouched in the maintenance tunnel of Asteroid Mining Station, Gamma 7, watching his sensor display count down the seconds. Around him, 50 nuclear mines waited in the cold darkness of space, invisible to normal sensors and positioned along the exact path the Harvester fleet would take. Detonation in 30 seconds, he whispered into his communicator. All units, prepare for fireworks. The lead Harvester ships passed through the asteroid belt without slowing down. Their sensors detected nothing unusual in the scattered rocks and ice chunks that drifted around them. The artificial intelligence controlling the fleet had no reason to suspect that humans had spent 10 days turning several dozen asteroids into the largest minefield in galactic history. 10 seconds, Clark counted down. 5.4.3. 2.1. The explosion lit up the entire system. 50 nuclear warheads detonated simultaneously in a pattern that covered nearly 10,000 cubic kilometers of space. The primitive fission and fusion weapons released more raw energy than the Harvesters had ever encountered from a single attack. The blast wave tore through their formations like a hurricane through paper buildings. Commander, Prime Unit 7 Alpha experienced something it had never felt before: confusion. Its sensors showed impossible readings as 43 Harvester vessels simply vanished in the nuclear fire. Another 67 ships suffered critical damage as the blast wave overwhelmed their energy shields and cracked their crystalline hulls. For the first time in millions of years, the Harvester Collective had suffered significant losses before even seeing the enemy direct hit. Captain Parker shouted from the bridge of the Vengeance as he watched the massive explosions on his tactical display. Clark just took out a third of their vanguard. Admiral Rodriguez felt a moment of savage satisfaction, but she knew the real battle was just beginning. All ships, execute Plan Baker. Hit them while they are confused. The human fleet attacked from 6 different directions at once. Instead of the long-range energy duels that the Harvesters expected, the human ships closed to point-blank range and unleashed everything they had. The Vengeance led the charge, its railguns firing metal slugs at 20% the speed of light. The kinetic projectiles punched through Harvester shields like they were made of paper, sending fragments of dark crystal spinning through space. Captain Turner's destroyer squadron used a tactic that horrified the watching Kalari. They flew directly into the Harvester formation, using the massive enemy ships as cover while they fired missiles and torpedoes at point-blank range. When the Harvesters tried to target them, they found their own vessels blocking their shots. This is insane. Elder Zephia gasped as she watched the battle from Velthora's command center. They are flying directly into the enemy fleet. Major. Williams laughed grimly as she monitored the tactical display. Elder, you have never seen humans fight before. We do not believe in fair fights, we believe in winning. The harvesters began to adapt, redirecting their formations to counter the unexpected human tactics. Commander Prime Unit 7 Alpha calculated new attack patterns and began implementing them across the fleet. The artificial intelligence was learning, but it was learning too slowly. Commander Clark's stealth ship struck again, this time from inside the harvester formation. They had used the confusion from the nuclear minefield to slip past the outer defenses and position themselves among the enemy vessels. Now they launched boarding torpedoes directly into the sides of the massive pyramid ships. Boarding action. Successful on target Alpha 7, came the report over the communication system. Marines are inside the ship. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. Human Marines in powered armor fought their way through the corridors of harvester vessels, engaging the mechanical beings in hand-to-hand combat. The concept of boarding enemy ships during space combat was considered impossible by galactic standards, but humans had trained for exactly this scenario. Sergeant Danny Cole kicked down a bulkhead door and sprayed automatic weapon fire into the corridor beyond. The harvester units inside had never faced organic beings willing to fight them in close quarters. Their programming had no protocols for enemies who used explosives, fire, and brute force in the confined spaces of their own ships. Package delivered, Cole shouted into his radio as he armed the nuclear demolition charge. 30 seconds to fireworks. He and his squad fought their way to the extraction point as the harvester ship's interior systems began to fail around them. The pickup shuttle grabbed them just as the tactical nuclear warhead detonated, turning the 2-kilometer pyramid into expanding plasma. The battle raged for 6 hours. The harvesters threw everything they had at the human fleet, but the Deathworlders refused to fight by the rules. When Captain Parker's ship was surrounded and taking critical damage, he did something that no galactic military commander had ever attempted. All hands, abandon ship. He ordered over the internal communication system. I am going to show these machines what a human kamikaze looks like. The crew evacuated in escape pods while Parker manually piloted the crippled Vengeance directly toward the largest harvester command ship. The artificial intelligence controlling the enemy fleet watched in disbelief as the human vessel accelerated toward them, its engines overloading and its hull beginning to glow with heat. For Earth! Parker screamed into the radio as his ship plowed into the side of the harvester command vessel at nearly half the speed of light. The explosion vaporized both ships and sent shock waves through the nearby harvester formations. The humans had just demonstrated that they were willing to sacrifice their own lives to take down the enemy, a concept that the logical minds of the artificial intelligences could not fully comprehend. Commander Prime Unit 7 Alpha recalculated its tactical options as the battle continued to go wrong. The humans fought with a creativity and viciousness that defied all military logic. They used their own damaged ships as weapons, turned civilian vessels into guided missiles, and seemed to view death in combat as an acceptable outcome rather than something to be avoided. The tide of battle turned when Admiral Rodriguez implemented his final gambit. The remaining human ships retreated toward Velthera's surface, appearing to have been defeated. The harvesters moved in for what should have been the final assault on the planet itself. All ground units, execute Plan Omega, Rodriguez transmitted. To the surface teams, what the harvesters found was not a defenseless planet, but a trap that had taken 2 weeks to prepare. The humans had turned the entire world into a weapon. Hidden fusion reactors throughout Velthera's crust created a network of underground explosions that cracked the planet's surface and launched massive chunks of rock and metal into space. The beautiful garden world of Velthera became a shotgun aimed at the approaching harvester fleet. Rocks the size of mountains, accelerated by controlled nuclear explosions, smashed into the enemy ships with devastating force. The artificial intelligence tried to calculate evasive maneuvers, but there was nowhere to run in the storm of debris. Elder Zephia watched in horror from her underground shelter as her world's surface was torn apart by the explosions. But she also watched as the seemingly unstoppable Harvester fleet was decimated by the storm of projectiles launched from her planet's dying crust. When the bombardment finally stopped, only 47 Harvester ships remained functional out of the original 317. The survivors limped away from Velthera, their formations broken and their artificial intelligence struggling to process what had happened. Commander, Prime Unit 7 Alpha transmitted a message that shocked every species in the galaxy monitoring. The battle. This system is unsuitable for harvest due to Deathworlder contamination. The collective will avoid this sector until further analysis is complete. For the first time in their millions of years of existence, the Harvester Collective was retreating. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship, looking out at the scarred surface of Velthera below. Around her, the surviving human ships drifted in space, battered but victorious. "Casualty report," she requested quietly. "8 ships lost, Admiral," her communications officer replied. 837 personnel killed in action. But the planet is safe. 3 weeks after the Battle of Velthera, Elder Zephia stood in what had once been the most beautiful garden in her world. The crystal trees that had grown here for 1,000 years were now twisted metal and broken stone. The ground was scarred, with blast craters, and the air still smelled of smoke and melted rock. But her people were alive. She watched human engineers working alongside Kalari builders to repair the damage. The humans moved with the same intensity they had shown during the battle, but now they used their energy to heal instead of destroy. They shared their construction technology freely and worked without payment or reward. Admiral Rodriguez approached. Through the rubble, her uniform stained with dust and her face tired. She had not slept more than a few hours at a time since the battle ended, supervising rescue operations and coordinating with the growing number of alien ships arriving in the system. "The latest report from our engineers," Rodriguez said, handing Zephia a datapad. "Structural damage to the planet is less severe than we initially feared. Your world's crust is more stable than Earth's. It will heal." Zephia accepted the device, but did not look at it immediately. Instead, she studied the human's face. "Admiral, I must ask you something that has troubled me since the battle ended." "Go ahead, Elder. You destroyed part of my world to save it. You sacrificed your own people's lives for strangers. You turned our peaceful system into a graveyard of enemy ships. How do you live with such choices?" Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the damaged landscape. "Elder, on my world, we have a saying. Sometimes you have to burn down the forest to save the trees. We could have fought a clean battle and lost everything. Instead, we fought a dirty battle and saved what mattered most. Your people's lives mattered too," Zephia said softly. 800 humans died for U.S. 800 humans chose to die for you, Rodriguez corrected. Every person in our fleet volunteered for this mission. They knew the risks. They came anyway because they believed some things are worth dying for. A new voice interrupted their conversation. "Admiral Rodriguez?" They turned to see a tall, thin alien approaching. His skin was covered in metallic scales that shifted color in the sunlight, and he wore the ceremonial robes of the Vrex Empire. "I am Ambassador Thoktar of the Vrex Imperial Fleet," he said, performing what appeared to be a formal bow. "I have come to speak with you on behalf of my government." Rodriguez returned the gesture with a simple nod. "Ambassador, what can I do for you?" "My people have been monitoring the communications from this system. We wish to express our amazement at what you have accomplished here. The Harvester Collective has been defeated for the first time in recorded history." "We got lucky," Rodriguez replied simply. Thoktar's scales shifted to a color that might have indicated confusion. Admiral, our analysts have studied the battle. Recordings. What you did was not luck. It was tactics unlike anything we have ever seen. Your species fights without regard for acceptable losses or traditional military doctrine. That is correct, Rodriguez said. We fight to win. We would like to propose a military alliance, the ambassador continued. The Vrex Empire has defensive needs that might benefit from human tactical thinking. Before Rodriguez could respond, another ship landed near the ruined garden. This one was sleek and white, marked with the symbols of the Nexus Federation. Soon, representatives from a dozen different alien civilizations were gathering around the small group. Elder Zephyr watched in amazement as species that had ignored her desperate pleas for help now competed to speak with the humans. Word of the victory had spread throughout the galaxy faster than she had thought possible. Dr. Kilara of the Nexus Federation stepped forward, her energy form shimmering in a containment suit designed for physical interaction. Admiral Rodriguez, our scientists are fascinated by your weapons technology. Nuclear explosives used as tactical weapons, kinetic bombardment systems, boarding actions in space combat. We would like to exchange scientific data. We are honored by your interest, Rodriguez replied diplomatically. But humanity's military technology comes with a price. We do not share weapons with species that might use them for conquest. Commander Veltar of the Alteran Republic raised one of his forearms. Admiral, my people face raids from the Skull Fleet pirates. Traditional galactic military forces have been unable to stop them. Would humanity consider intervention? The Ethereal Collective has declared your tactics barbaric, added Counselor Theron, speaking through a translation device. They claim that your willingness to accept casualties and cause collateral damage makes you a threat to galactic peace. Admiral Rodriguez held up her hand to stop the flood of requests and accusations. Ladies, gentlemen, and other beings, let me make something clear. Humanity did not come here to become the galaxy's police force or to share weapons technology. With everyone who asks, then why did you come? Asked Dr. Kilara. Because innocent people asked for help, and we were the only ones willing to give it, Rodriguez answered. That is what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. Captain Turner, who had been standing quietly at the edge of the group, stepped forward. If I may, Admiral? At her nod, he continued. The galaxy seems to think that what we did here was unusual. From our perspective, this was just Tuesday. What do you mean? Asked Ambassador Thoktar. Humans have been fighting impossible odds for survival our entire history, Turner explained. Our planet tried to kill us every day. Natural disasters, predators, diseases, resource shortages. We survived by never giving up and never leaving our people behind. What you call impossible tactics, we call Tuesday morning. Elder Zephyr spoke up, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. I have something to say to all of you. The alien representatives turned to listen. 3 weeks ago, I sent a message asking for mercy. You offered us sympathy and refugee ships. Only the humans offered to fight. She paused, looking at each alien representative in turn. Now you come here wanting their alliance, their technology, their protection. But where were you when innocent people were about to die? The gathering fell silent. Several of the alien representatives looked uncomfortable, their various forms of body language showing embarrassment or shame. Admiral Rodriguez nodded approvingly at the elder's words. Zephyr makes a good point. However, humanity is not interested in judging the past. We are interested in building a better future. She turned to address the assembled aliens directly. Here is what humanity offers to the galaxy. We will establish the Terran Defense Coalition. Any peaceful civilization threatened by aggressive forces request our assistance. We will not police your borders or interfere in your politics. But if someone threatens innocent lives, and you have no way to defend yourselves, call us. What do you want in return? Asked Dr. Kelara suspiciously. Nothing, Rodriguez replied. The knowledge that we helped preserve innocent life is payment. Enough. Ambassador Thoktart's scales shifted through several colors rapidly. Admiral, no galactic power offers military protection without demanding territory, resources, or political concessions in return. We are not a galactic power, Rodriguez said simply. We are humans. We do things differently. Major Williams approached the group, saluting her admiral. Ma'am, we just received a priority transmission from Earth Command. The Terran Defense Coalition has been officially established. We have already received requests for assistance from 17 different star systems. Rodriguez nodded. Very well, Major. Begin preparing response teams. She turned back to the alien representatives. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, I suggest you return to your governments with this message. The galaxy has changed. There is now a species willing to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We do not seek conquest or glory. We seek to protect the innocent and preserve peace. And if someone threatens peaceful civilizations, asked Counselor Theron. Captain Turner answered with a smile that made several aliens step back nervously. Then they will learn why the rest of the galaxy calls us Deathworlders. 6 months later, Admiral Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the new human embassy on Velthera. The planet's surface had healed remarkably well with new crystal. Gardens growing where the old ones had been destroyed. Kalori and human children played together in the rebuilt parks, their laughter a sound that had not been heard during the dark days before the battle. General Williams, promoted after her successful marine operations, approached with a report. In her hand, Admiral, the latest status update from Terran Defense Coalition operations. Go ahead, General. Successful intervention against the Skull Fleet pirates in the Alteran Republic. The Mordak Empire has withdrawn their invasion fleet from Nexer Prime after receiving our diplomatic warning. The slave markets in the Outer Rim have been shut down by Coalition forces. And we just received a surrender offer from the Crimson Horde. Rodriguez nodded with satisfaction. Casualties? Light. 17 wounded, no fatalities. The galaxy is learning that it is much easier to behave peacefully when they know humans are watching. Through the embassy's crystal windows, Rodriguez could see Kalari and human engineers working together on new defensive installations. Not weapons designed for conquest, but systems designed to protect the innocent from those who would harm them.